In these days of global brands, it may interest you to know there was a time when Jameson didn't bottle their own whiskey. They made the stuff, but someone else bottled and sold it. These were the bonders, and families like the Mitchells have been doing just that since 1805.
Mitchell & Son Wine Merchants were probably one of the oldest family-run wine merchants in Ireland. I'm the 7th generation to be involved in the company, and at the turn of the century we got involved in the whisky bonding and wine importing business. We used to have old Oloroso sherry casks and other sherry casks made with Fino sherry, and what we would do is put the whisky into these casks, age them for 5 years, and then we would blend them all together into one cask and age them for another 5 years at our cellars at Fitzwilliam Lane.
Green Spot came about because they wanted to change the label. Prior to that it was called Pat Whiskey, and there was a picture of a crusty old man who clearly had lots of Green Spot under his belt when the drawing was taken.
At street level, Fitzwilliam Lane is just another urban jumble of mews houses, lockups and coffee shops. But underground in the cellars where Mitchells matured their whisky, time has stood still. Green Spot was traditionally bottled when it was 10 years old, but there were other spots, each getting their name from the colour of paint daubed on the cask end. Blue Spot was bottled at 7 years, yellow at 12, and finally red at 15. It's the kind of eccentric labelling system that, once you know how it came about, makes perfect sense.
So Green Spot was the survivor of that when times got tough and people couldn't afford to buy whiskey and leave it doing nothing for 10, 12 years, for 15 years. So it was decided just to have Green Spot.
So Green Spot was the name that Mitchells gave their bottlings of Jameson pot still whiskey. And for longer than anyone can remember, that's how it worked. Jameson made the stuff, then sent it here to this subterranean warren in the centre of Dublin, where Mitchells matured it. Then, in the late 1960s, everything changed. Jameson decided to stop selling to the bonded trade, but they kept supplying limited quantities to Mitchells. So these cellars were always half full and half empty. And what better to put into fine casks than fine whiskey? And overhead, while life rushed past and horses gave way to trams and trams gave way to cars and cars gave way to trams again, down here in the cool, dark underbelly of Dublin, Green Spot just did its thing. It matured and took on the character of the city, only being bottled when it was good and ready.
It is definitely a whiskey which is not something that you just throw around and drink at midday or something. It's a whiskey that has a very unique style. It's very full in the mouth. It's very mellow. It's got hints of menthol in it, not too much caramel, and generally it's down to the guys in Middleton who do such a good job to keep it constant.
Maybe that's why Green Spot survived, maybe not. But for 40 years, Mitchell & Son Wine Merchants kept the pot still flag flying and single-handedly supplied Dublin's writers, thinkers, and even the odd politician some of Ireland's finest pot still whiskey.
Green Spot has had a lot of loyalty by true whiskey drinkers all through the years. People like Samuel Beckett, who had a great palate for whiskey, we would send it over to Paris to him. And more currently, you have situations where people performing concerts or whatever coming into the city, the word would come out to send some Green Spot over.
We have got a fantastic product here, one of not too many pure pot still Irish whiskies that are on the market, but certainly I'll be biased here and say probably one of the best.